Man, I used to think Jesse Jackson was so extreme when I was a child with how my parents and media talked about him. It's embarrassing for me now to have felt that way knowing what I know now. I mean, it's all good. I want to get started by giving a shout out to the great Reverend Jesse Jackson. U.S. civil rights leader Jesse Jackson dies at the age of 84. He was an iconic, heroic figure of American politics. I'm a huge fan. Rest in power to Jesse Jackson. Let's take a look at how mainstream media is covering his legacy.
Jackson, the famed civil rights leader who marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and later ran for president, has died. His family has confirmed he was 84. He died peacefully on Tuesday morning, surrounded by his family, they said in a statement. Aleem Makboul looks back at his life.
November 2008. Barack Obama and a moment of history. In the crowd, the tear-stained face of a man who'd done much to pave the way. The Reverend Jesse Jackson.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, change has come to America.
Born to a teenage single mother in Greenville, South Carolina, Jesse Jackson grew up in a world where black and white were legally segregated. In 1959, he won a football scholarship to university, but threw himself into the civil rights struggle that was engulfing America.
And there's a great swell of cheers to welcome Martin Luther King.
Under the leadership of Martin Luther King. Reverend King sent the young Baptist minister to Chicago to organize protests. On marches, the two men faced violent crowds opposed to the movement. Then, in Memphis, Martin Luther King was murdered in front of Jackson. The assassin was later arrested, having fled the country, but Jackson was never convinced he'd been working alone.
This man could not have stalked Dr. King.
Yeah, one of the craziest parts about this is that I think he was totally correct in his assessment that this was the work of like an organized body of people, which I think we all know who that organization might be. It's the FBI.
Had the logistical operation, had operative alternative passports, and got out of the country with money alone.
A powerful public speaker, Jackson continued the struggle.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody.
In the 80s, he twice ran for president, but failed to win the Democratic Party nomination. But for the first time, a black man was a serious contender.
Our time has come. We must leave racial battleground and come to economic common ground and moral higher ground. America, our time has come.
On the international stage, he campaigned for a Palestinian state.
I think you guys can kind of understand why I'm obviously fascinated with Jesse Jackson in particular. Yeah, the Rainbow Coalition was a continuation of what Fred Hampton sought to do as well. It was a continuation of MLK's legacy, a class-first politics that still does not shy away from talking about the racial element of American white supremacy, but a class-first politics nonetheless, a class-first politics that focuses on improving people's material conditions unconditionally. And no, the little F's are going to cut in and out the entire day. Just know that it's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it.
A long rift with American Jews after some unguarded and offensive remarks. He persuaded Saddam Hussein to release human shields on the eve of the Iraq War. And as South Africa emerged from apartheid, the man who spent years maintaining American pressure.
What time is it?
From the 1960s to the election of Barack Obama, even to the Black Lives Matter movement of recent years, Jesse Jackson was a constant figure in American public life, determined to show generations of young black Americans they too could have a voice.
There's a video on his presidential run, the 88 campaign or 84 campaign.
A black man or a black woman occupying the White House? That was the race's impossible dream.
Jesse Jackson
Stud.
wasn't the first African-American to run for president. That would be Shirley Chisholm. But Jesse Jackson's run was incredibly exciting. It wasn't just we might get a black president. We might get a black president with a narrative and an agenda that actually represents what democracy could really look like in this country.
By the way, his 84 and 88 campaign, or his 84 and 88 campaign both were far more radical and far more progressive than modern day Democratic campaigns are. I mean, this guy was the real deal, okay? The OG. It's kind of crazy to think about. And he was, of course, like disparaged endlessly. He was attacked endlessly. And the Democrats at the time did not shy away from using whatever ammunition they could.
Surprisingly, Jackson struggled to receive endorsements from many high-profile black...
Surprisingly. No, not surprisingly, actually. As a matter of fact, very unsurprisingly. Now we have the rear view mirror, so we have a very different attitude on this. But if you recall, there was another high-profile, young, black Democratic Party presidency contender who also struggled to receive endorsements from high-profile black figures in the party. His name was Barack Obama. I'm sorry. This is just how the game is played. If you don't understand it by now, make no mistake. He had to literally earn that with the Iowa caucus. He had to earn that. They wanted Hillary. It's true, by the way. For those of you who don't know, this is literally what happened. Do not let any motherfucker try to do revisionist history here. Barack Obama went through a similar struggle.
Most of the black leadership was against him running. They had their own arrangements with the Democratic Party and establishment. They didn't think it could work, but he ran, and he did very well, better than they all thought.
3.5 million people cast their votes for Jesse Jackson. Some estimated that as many as 20% of the African Americans who voted for him had never voted before. Though he fell short of winning the Democratic nomination, Jesse Jackson's 1984 president...
I swear to God, this right here was another like 2016 Bernie versus Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump moment. 1984, Jesse Jackson comes in, DNC cooks his ass, actively destroys his mobilization efforts, and basically, lo and behold, you got the proto-Trump, Ronald Reagan. That's why they say don't blame me. I'm from Minnesota, by the way, because Minnesota was the only state that voted for Mondale over Reagan. Yeah, you know, lots of comparisons to be made here.
Presidential bid changed the political landscape forever.
Long before there was a Barack Obama, there was a Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he was lifting up little kids all across
I'll be
America.
honest, the real comparison here is not a Barack Obama. The real comparison here is a Bernie Sanders, but obviously I'm too white to be making that comparison. A lot of people are going to be like, hush now, little white baby. But the reality of the matter is a more accurate comparison would be a Bernie Sanders.
Believing that they too one day can become president of the United States. He taught us that our voices matter.
Because the reality of the matter is Barack Obama won, right? And he was able to secure the endorsements by the time he was, the established candidate, right? And we also know how he governed after he won the presidency. He ran on a very progressive platform. He secured the endorsements. He won the primary. And then he kept up with a relatively progressive campaign in the general as well.
Well, the first thing I do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act. That's the first thing that I do.
And then he turned around and governed like a Hillary. Here's a clip of Chuck Schumer bragging about blocking the Jackson Plank, which was proposed in the 1988 DNC platform item by Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign supporting Palestinian self-determination. You might recognize a person who is speaking in 1988, celebrating blocking the Jackson Plank in 1988.
I usually begin my speeches by saying I'm glad to be here. I'm not quite sure that's appropriate tonight, that when I walked up the stairs I was pushed. Let me remind you the last time I was booed publicly, and this was the last time, was something you all abhorred, because I was the leader in the fight against the pro-Palestinian Jackson plank at the Democratic Convention. And I got up on that platform and I said just what I thought. And certain other states got up and booed my speech. So that just as tonight,
it's so crazy that like Chuck Schumer has been Israel first for like his entire political experience. Like, this is yet another glaringly obvious example of him just being like anti everything Jesse Jackson represents, including running on a platform for Palestinian self-determination in 1988. The only time when you see Chuck Schumer this energized is when he's speaking at like some like American Jewish conference or something like that, where he's just sitting there and talking about how excited he is to make sure that Israel gets unlimited support. Link, please. This is on my Twitter page. I quote retweeted this. The struggle against the left flank that centers working class politics has been ongoing for far longer than these last election cycles. RIP Jesse Jackson. Senator Schumer says Jesse Jackson was an icon. Chuck Schumer now, of course, tweets, Jesse Jackson was an icon of the civil rights movement and a fearless warrior for justice for all people. He was one of the most powerful forces of positive change in the country. America is far more equal and a just place thanks to his work. My prayers are with his family and all those who were inspired by him. As we honor Reverend Jackson in the coming days, I will be thinking of the many lessons he taught us. Like, no matter what, I have to make sure that there's no Palestinian self-determination. It's just so crazy because, like, people like Jesse Jackson were on the right side of history, unyielding, always correct, and they got punished endlessly for it. Some people who were also on the right side of history got killed for being on the right side of history, for having conviction, for believing in the cause of justice for all, for believing in egalitarian principles and acting on it, not just sticking to words, but acting on said principles. Our American history is filled with people like this. Our American history is filled with brave civil rights legends like Jesse Jackson, who unfortunately just passed away, but was punished endlessly throughout his advocacy, throughout his activism, throughout his career. It's very, very frustrating to see these monsters that offered setback after setback after setback on numerous occasions, only to turn around and be like, wow, their legacy, we always loved it. We were always a fan.
And talk about that, especially for young people who aren't so familiar with the movement to take down apartheid in South Africa, and going back to 1966, the March Against Fear in Mississippi.
You need people like this. You need 1 million. You need tens of millions of Jesse Jacksons. The reality of the matter is the work never ends. The struggle always continues. You need people who say, nah, this is up. You know what I mean? Whether it be the apartheid in South Africa, whether it be the apartheid in Palestine, you need people to continue pushing that advocacy. That's why I never discourage people from protesting. I never discourage people from changing their minds. I never discourage people when they actually come to that recognition, no matter how late it is, because we don't have the time, nor do we have the opportunity, the privilege to say no to people who come on board with these decisions, come on board with these movements. We need everyone, especially considering that the powers that be will do everything. We don't have the luxury. Thank you, Chowder. That was the word I was looking for. We don't have the luxury to just push people away, to say, it's not for me. It's fine. We have to work within the system to the best of our ability. We have to work with people that we disagree with from time to time. We don't have the luxury. We don't have the resources. Here, let's hear a speech from Jesse Jackson talking about the neoliberal Democratic Party's refusal to even attempt to appeal to the working classes, let alone organize them. This is around the Reagan era.
We're going to stop the rocks. It's been laying around and pick them up. That's right. In 1980, Reagan won Massachusetts by 2,500 votes. There were over 100,000 students unregistered, over 50,000 blacks, over 50,000 Hispanics. He won by 2,500. Ted Kennedy State. Rocks just laying around. He won Illinois by 300,000 votes. 800,000 unregistered blacks, 500,000 Hispanics. Rocks just laying around. He won
Jesse Jackson got rat fucked with the Clintons and the Dem primaries who bombarded him with openly racist campaign ads and messaging. There are a lot of reasons to despise the Clintons, but that's one of the biggest ones. The Clintons used racism to sink an ascendant socialist figure who would have won in a landslide if the Clintons had essentially rigged the primaries and got out the racist white folks to sink him. Jesse Jackson and his politics will be very familiar to you if you're like a post-2016 Bernie bro. If you're a post-2016 Bernie bro, the attacks against them also were obviously far more consequential than even Bernie Sanders at the time, because like material conditions had gotten far worse by 2016. So people were way more invested in an anti-establishment figure as opposed to back then. And not only that, but also the shine of like New Deal Democrats was still very much firmly captured in the hands of the establishment Democrats in general. So that is part of the reason why it was like it seemed virtually impossible back then. But the slant that he ran on and his advocacy was damn near identical to the advocacy that you see nowadays with the Bernie-crats, with that same exact movement, what I like to call left flank candidates. And their advocacy was very similar. It was a working class first. It was class first politics. It was a uniting message on the boundaries of class rather than other culture war narratives in general.
In 1980, 3 million high school students unregistered to vote.
Even down to the non-voters, like even down to going after non-voters, trying to organize non-voters and activate them into voting. How depressing is that this same exact speech is the most relevant today still? Chatter. This is the exact same reason why you look back at my commentary from 10 years past.
ICE is Gestapo, a state-sponsored law enforcement division created to wreak havoc in our communities, separate families, and punish people, well, overwhelmingly people of color, for the crime of wanting to pursue the American dream.
You look back at the stuff that I was writing about, you look back at the stuff that I was saying in 2016 and onward, and the reality of the matter is the issues are the same and my advocacy is the same. This is just how it is, especially in a place like the United States of America. If you are a socialist, if you're a Marxist, if you are a progressive, if you are to the left of the Democratic Party and you see these problems, you recognize them, you want to solve them, you communicate how we could solve them. Slowly but surely, you start realizing that the hurdles are the same, the problems are the same, the setbacks are the same, but nevertheless, we still continue to organize. But that is the reality. You got to take advantage of the opportunities given to you, the opportunities to organize, and you have to be persistent, you have to be stubborn, and you just have to keep pushing. Whenever people say, oh, Hasan, this is a setback far too large, what do we do here? You have to keep going. You have to keep pushing, especially when you know your cause is just. You do it for those who were lost in the battle, and you do it for those who remain. It is something you have to internalize, though. You have to have a backbone, especially in terms of the advocacy surrounding Palestinians and Palestinian self-determination. Here's Jesse Jackson, civil rights leader, accused of anti-Semitism for advocating for Palestinians in the 80s, mind you.
You offended the Jews, and about you were sick and tired of hearing about the Holocaust. To say that when we're not sick and tired of hearing about black lynchings in the South and so on, I mean, we're still sympathetic. And what incredibly bad timing.
After visiting the Holocaust site, the tour guide asked me how did I feel about it. I said one has to have a sense of tragedy, and I think it's real tragic. I said, and the phrase that many Jewish people use, "never again," really should apply to everybody, because all of us should say never again to fascism, because this is the logical conclusion of fascism. So you say, well, you make it sound as if it's just a humanitarian crisis when it's in fact unique. I said, well, as a social scientist, I choose to use the word tragic. He said, but unique. I say tragic. I said, I read Trail of Tears. I know how the Indians were exterminated. 60 million blacks were lost between Africa and America. Other similar situations. And so he became offended because I chose to use the word tragic rather than unique.
Yeah, he was right, and he wasn't too early. He was right, but he wasn't too early even back then. It's just that society was not ready for it. But even back then, there were plenty of thinkers who recognized right from wrong, who understood the similarities, who understood that the very same ideological forces that committed the atrocities during the Holocaust were the exact same ideological forces at a different time doing the indigenous extermination, doing 400 years of colonial extraction, slavery, mass rapes, the death and destruction of black people from Africa. It was the exact same ideological motivation. It was fascism before fascism was able to materialize as a solid political movement, right? Before it was fascism, it was colonialism. The reality of the matter is that it was the same old tragedy in many respects. The exceptional nature or the consistent demands of singling out the Holocaust, especially nowadays, is weaponized against the plight of Palestinians. Anytime you make any sort of comparison between what took place with the Nazis, what they did to 6 million Jews and millions of other people as well, Slavs, people who had disabilities, gay people, trans people. When you compare that to the genocide that Israel is committing against Palestinians, people say, no, you can't do that. Never again just means never again for us, never again just for Jews. That's not what never again is supposed to be about.
It reflects a certain hypersensitivity that we must have a new formula in the Middle East that represents more balance in our policy. We must be concerned about Palestinian justice, Lebanon's territorial integrity protected, and normalized ties with the Arab world. That must not be considered offensive.
When quotes like that come out about the Holocaust and so on, who would be out to discredit you so by getting that kind of misquote?
Well,
if it is, as you say, a misquote.
Many Jewish people were insulted and outraged by virtue of the fact that we accepted Arafat's invitation to go to Lebanon. And therefore, there were many who simply attempted to sabotage the trip by trying to discredit us and therefore make our meeting with him an irrelevant trip as opposed to a relevant trip. One of the guys who helped to deal with our ticket arrangements, getting there, a travel agent, he became so irate over the fact that we were going to meet this anathema, this guy called Arafat, and he just simply went in rage and lost all sense of emotional balance. He did a press conference.
I mean, this is a man who worked for you?
No, he did not work for us. See, that was a lie he told. He did not work for us.
When you had your picture taken hugging Arafat, that, of course, offended a lot of people who strange bedfellows to be.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. How dare you? How dare you communicate with the other side? The other side that we obviously choose to undermine, the other side that we never want to offer a voice to, because if you never actually recognize the other side's humanity, then it's much easier to disparage them. It's much easier to dehumanize them. It's much easier to justify all of the atrocities that befall the Palestinian people, right? So we here in the heart of empire play a very significant role, a role that I try to play to the best of my ability. We have the opportunity to show the other side. We have the opportunity to give a voice to the voiceless. We have an opportunity to listen to their demands. We have an opportunity to humanize them to our friends, to our family members, using the platforms that we have at our disposal. They will always try and stop it. And this is not just the Palestinians versus the Israeli society and its military conquest. This is the same for every group. It's the same for the Venezuelans. It's the same for the Cubans. It's the same for all of the dispossessed masses that American imperialism and Western imperialism chooses to dominate. That's why there is always so much resistance. And that resistance should be expected. This is something that you have to remember. People will say a whole bunch of nonsense. You speak out against Israel, to call you an anti-Semite, as they did with Jesse Jackson. You speak out against American imperialism in Venezuela to say, oh, well, you want to destroy the Venezuelan population. You don't care if they die. When in fact, it's actually the American government's design that is killing Venezuelans, that denies them sovereignty. Same with people in Cuba. It doesn't matter what people say. You can't listen to naysayers who are either deluded into thinking that you are a bad person, or people who are cynically weaponizing these other forces at play: racism, white supremacy, Nazism, fascism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, people who are very well aware of the social conditioning that exists and will choose to weaponize it against you.
You're hugging a member of the PLO, an organization not unassociated with terrorism.
It's a matter of respect. In that part of the world, one of the common cultural ways of greeting people is with an embrace and a hug on both sides.
This is the same shit where people say, Hasan, you're pro-Hamas, you're an anti-Semitite. Just like John Fetterman was saying the other day. Hasan, you're an anti-Semitite.
And why would you align yourself for raging anti-Semitites and very pro-Hamas people like Hassan Piker?
Look, they said the same shit about PLO.
There is some new trouble to tell you about tonight between Reverend Jesse Jackson and Barack Obama. And Fox's John Gibson is here with more on that. Hi, John.
Thanks, Martha. Barack Obama is about change, the Reverend Jesse Jackson says. Starting with the Middle East, we're quoting Jackson now, decades of putting Israel's interests first will end. In an interview in France with Amir Tahiri of the New York Post, Jackson said, Zionists have controlled American policy for decades and will lose their clout when Barack Obama enters the White House. Today, the Obama campaign reacted quickly by saying Jesse Jackson is not an Obama advisor, and Jackson is, quote, therefore in no position to interpret or share Barack Obama's views on Israel and foreign policy. Jackson's untimely quotes could have an effect on Florida and some parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania, where the Jewish vote is important. Obama's team further said no false charges can change Barack Obama's unshakable commitment to Israel's security, and as president, Obama will ensure that Israel can defend itself from every threat it faces. While keeping a
couple things to pay attention to here. Some things never change, and some things change dramatically. Establishment liberals, of course, will rat the people that brought them along, the people that helped play a role in getting them to the position of power. That's number one. Barack Obama behaving like an establishment Democrat here. But something that has changed dramatically is the Fox News coverage. Can you imagine Fox News offering fair and balanced coverage as opposed to now in a situation like this? I'm just saying, this is considered fair and balanced reporting, especially in comparison to even the New York Times coverage now, you know? I feel like Fox News back then, which was foul for the record, but even then, this looks like more fair coverage than what CNN's Jake Tapper would offer to Barack Obama nowadays. Think about that.
Obama's denials in mind, I'd like to remind you of my comments last week on Obama's close relationship with Rashid Khalidi. Khalidi and his wife were personal friends of the Obamas in Chicago, as well as somebody who donated money to Obama and someone to whom Obama steered grant money in his position at the Woods Fund. According to the LA Times, Khalidi once acted as a spokesman for the PLO and a negotiator for Palestinians in peace talks, and Obama once said Khalidi opened his eyes to a different point of view. Obama's history with one-time PLO spokesman Rashid Khalidi makes me wonder if Jesse Jackson's error was simply that he spoke out at the wrong time, just 20 days before the election. Write to me at Gibson Radio at foxnews.com. Check out the radio show XM1 at 168, Sirius 145, and
yeah, Jesse Jackson 2003. Don't attack Iraq. All you get for being on the right side of history is just an endless amount of scrutiny your whole damn life, your whole damn career in advocacy. That's all you receive, dude. But that's just how it is. That's how it always will be.
How can you do these things, Reverend? You're always out marching and you're demonstrating and you're willing to go to jail and you're going from nation to nation. And how do you reconcile that with your religion? Well, my religion obligates me to do that.
Okay, like legit feedback from a 41-month subscriber. For what it's worth, the soundboard makes your stream less watchable. My wife literally made me turn off one of your YouTube videos. I was listening via premium on the drive home because she was so annoyed with the soundboard. No ideological problems here. It's just really annoying and repetitive sounding. I don't mean this as any hate, just feedback. Bruh. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, well, to you, chatter, I say...
And pussy too.
Yeah, that's right. That's a bad take, and we're going to keep using the soundboard, okay? I also have this to say for you and your wife. Okay? That's all I got. I'm going to keep using the soundboard. I don't even care. I am going to keep using the soundboard every now and then, especially because...
We are Charlie Kirk. We carry the flame. We'll fight for the gospel. We'll honor his name.
Yeah. So just, keep up. Nice, sweet wife flex, by the way. Respect to you. Respect to you, chatter. Blammo. I mean, that's all I got. Man, I used to think Jesse Jackson was so extreme when I was a child with how my parents and media talked about him. It's embarrassing for me now to have felt that way knowing what I know now. I mean, it's all good. You now are armed with the knowledge. It's good for you to move on from that, right? You've become a new person. Your third eye has opened, whatever you want to call it. If you're a spiritual person, that's like, one way to look at it. What matters is not who you used to be. What matters is who you are now. And that transformational experience can actually make you a better advocate. That transformational experience can make you a better organizer because you are now equipped with the knowledge of the social conditioning that other people have, just like yourself. Now you know what steps it takes to make this transformational change. And you can use that in your advocacy. You can use that when you're talking to other people.
Jackson also took on the role of freelance international negotiator, meeting with some of the world's most brutal tyrants.
Overseas, the American
world's most, wait, hold on, let's run that back. Wait, I'm sorry, what?
On the role of freelance international negotiator, meeting with some of the world's most brutal tyrants.
Overseas, the American black activist Jesse Jackson has become an intermediary in the Middle East.
In 1984, he met with Syria's Hafez al-Assad.
Goodman and the Reverend Jackson arrived at Andrews Air Force Base,
securing the release of downed American naval officer Lieutenant Robert Goodman. In 1990, he held talks with Saddam Hussein to free foreign nationals being held in Iraq as human shields. And in 1999, he went behind enemy lines again to meet with Slobodan Milosevic to negotiate the return of 3 American prisoners of war.
True.
He was hospitalized in Chicago in mid-November and released a few weeks later. Through it all, Jackson's faith and hope in what America could be endured. Jackson's family saying he passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 84 years old.
America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I love you very much.